Hello and welcome to Straight Talk with me, Sifiso Mahlangu. I have an interesting guest tonight. His name is Mr. Marius Fransman, the leader of the ANC in the Western Cape. Many say he's not the leader of the ANC in the province anymore, but we find out. We're a few weeks before the ANC's National Elective Conference. Mr. Fransman, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Sifiso, and once again, it's always interesting to be part of the type of engagements, the brainstorming, the think tanks, taking it out there to the communities, and I wish you all the best with all the work and to get the message out as frankly out there in society.
My first question is to you. Let's put it out there for South Africa and the world to hear. Are you still the leader of the ANC in the Western Cape?
I think what we must accept, Sifiso, we're living in interesting times in the African National Congress. If we are Democrats in the organization, you would understand that there are those that question even if the president is supposed to be still the leader of the ANC nationally. In the Western Cape, I was elected in 2015, unopposed, I must admit. There were 2 or 3 candidates against me, but I was elected unopposed as the chairperson of the ANC in the Western Cape. 5 years before that, I was elected as the chairperson of the ANC in the Western Cape. There are those that once through coups and through strange dark corner discussions tried to unseat me, but a conference have spoken, and yes, indeed, so I'm the leader. The issue is really at the point where a bullet was shot somewhere early last year. There was some strange approach of the way there was an attempt to deal with Marius Fransman vis-a-vis what we've now recently seen in the likes of what happened to Hadebe, what happened to DP Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, and the way the organization was able to deal with things where people actually explicitly had to acknowledge that they were wrong. We've just seen a recent incident of Comrade Manana, where there was an assault on a woman, and it seems to me is now pleaded guilty, meaning guilt finding, but still not charged in the African National Congress. Myself, an allegation, no charges legally, but still the machine of Derek Hanekom has moved like a bullet from February last year to try and get me out. I actually accept and understand that it was a strategy to use the disciplinary committee because Derek could not get right what he lost at the ANC provincial conference in 2015. Okay. So if you ask him, yes, I'm suspended. If you ask the leadership of the regions, the leadership of the branches, they're saying Fransman is still intact, but is being bullied or forced out. Currently, I'm still the chairperson of the ANC, but it's contested, and it's contested precisely because of what you said. There's a national elective conference taking.
Mr. Fransman, let me draw you back to the infamous trip to the ANC's birthday. You got into the vehicle with a certain lady driving up to the birthday of the ANC in Rustenburg. And that was to be your political downfall, as many people claim. What happened on that trip?
The fact of the matter is simply the following. An ally to Hanekom sent me a SMS 10 days before that trip. You will see what we're going to do with you in the 104-year celebration. That ally was one of the regional secretaries of the ANC in the Boland. Those are all facts. Anyone can make an allegation. It doesn't mean the allegation is true. Now, different legal authorities has looked into it. It's a year and a half after what happened. The issue is not that. In fact, I was mistreated by my organization on the back of somebody standing up and there's an allegation. And normally we say innocent until proven guilty. The test has been put. The allegation couldn't hold any water. But at the end, the machine, as the chairperson of the disciplinary committee in the ANC, Comrade Derek Hanekom, that machine has worked to get rid of me. I think that's the reality. I did say there was no such thing of any harassment, there was no thing of any assault, etc. Nothing at all. So I'm not going to go back into that discussion, Sifiso. The point is we've moved on, and the hard reality is we understood it was a political assault. The evidence is there to put it. The only challenge that I've got is the fact that it was not addressed in the way it was supposed to be addressed, and I wasn't afforded the same checks and balances and the innocent until proven guilty as I've now seen different comrades, as recent even as our deputy president, that has been given. I've heard now Comrade Gwede Mantashe speaks about it's all dirty tricks again, Comrade DP, from intelligence sources. That's what he said. The question is, why is it suddenly dirty tricks? If it is if it's a kind of in support of CR17 issues. But when it is people that are not necessarily seeing eye to eye with white monopoly capital interests in this country, not seeing eye to eye with to keep the economy the way it is, then, for example, people can be dealt
So,
with.
Mr. Fransman, you're saying you did not sexually harass this woman?
No, I think we've said it. I've said it on your show in the past. Without a doubt, no.
So where does Mr. Derek Hanekom get the ability or the right to propagate this against you? Are you suggesting that Mr. Hanekom colluded with this woman to have you charged?
No, I said Hanekom was part of a group in the ANC in the Western Cape. I think you hear what I'm trying to bring. I don't want these bigger issues and these leadership issues to be discussed. Point is, was there a charge against me? There was none. But if you think about early last year, that was the allegation. What has happened is Hanekom and others has decided to use that allegation and in fact went ahead and run to the Integrity Committee. The Integrity Committee was used in my case, but it was not used when a woman was beaten up, and there's videos to that.
So you're saying it's strange that there's information about the Deputy President's extramarital affairs, but he is not taken to the Integrity Commission.
No, remember it was...
And you're not even charged in a court of law like Mduduzi Manana.
The point is the Integrity Committee was used by Hanekom and others to get rid of the leader of the ANC in the Western Cape, which they couldn't dislodge in 2015, that didn't share the same perspective to dislodge the president of the ANC.
How are you facilitating your comeback into public politics in the Western Cape?
Look, I think I'm relevant. If we go to the structures and the branches and the regions, you would have heard 6 months ago people were saying it's in support of a campaign to put CR17 in place. You've heard that publicly. The provincial secretary alluded to that. He claimed that they've got the branches. I always maintained for the last 6 months, they don't have the branches.
Okay.
The branches and the regions are intact and solidly behind a position to say that we will align ourselves on the ground in support of the candidate for the presidential candidate.
About a year or so ago, you held a conference on land, and you invited me as one of the speakers, and I went and addressed the public of the Western Cape on the expropriation of land in South Africa. I got also to meet members of the church, politicians, members of your family, and you looked and presented yourself to be a man of such integrity. You know, I came back and wrote pieces about the man I read about and the man I met, and those were two different people. How is it that you were painted so maliciously in the media?
In the National Executive Committee, I stood up and said there's a campaign to take down President Zuma. This was in September 2015, not last year, 2 years ago. I made an input in that NEC, and I said, we found out that Hanekom and a few others are part of a machine, including with business people, in the build-up to the then National General Council, if you remember it was in October 2015, to put forward a motion of no confidence in the president. I said it. What has come back to me was that type of viciousness of an attack. So I accept that. That's politics. For one moment, think about all these shenanigans that arrived, the stuff that you've just mentioned about allegations against other leaders. Why were they treated differently than me? What is the strategic question? Is it because I'm aligned to a position that says we will not tolerate a situation where we allow things to be business as usual in South Africa?
Is it true that you met the outcome of the Integrity Commission on social media.
Remember in July last year, I went to the court to it. I wrote letters after letters to the Integrity Committee. So why am I reading things in the media? But it is not in a document to me. Then I wrote 7 letters to Luthuli House. It was not responded to them. Most was not responded to them. And that's when I went to court and I got the document from the court. Now just think, the leader of the ANC tried to get access to a document which he's supposed to get in writing. I was told I'll get it. At the end of the day, it was in dark corners and they were leaking things to certain media people, etc., etc. So that's last year. I think the question is, where are we today? In the African National Congress, we've seen, since I've raised it in September 2015 and I've pointed about Hanekom and others, we saw at least, 6 or 7 motion of no confidence in President Zuma. We saw 3 or 4 in the NEC. Wherever did you hear a comrade can stand up, not put a formal proposal in 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the NEC, and like a thief at night, jump up and say, I'm putting a motion of no confidence.
Is there animosity between you and the Secretary General of the ANC?
Look, I think, I don't believe it's animosity. I think the issue is Comrade Gwede had to go and defend the position of
But Mr. Fransman, all the slur on media, him saying you must go and sell ice cream and you responding, and you know, all of those slurs and jabs in the public domain suggest to me that there is grave animosity between you and that leader. You can sit here and attempt to be diplomatic about it, but I don't think there's any love lost between the two.
Yeah, Comrade Mantashe was part of a position to support Hanekom and for East Jacobs and others in the Western Cape. That's on the record. We know that, right?
Okay.
I differed with that position. He sided against what is fair and what is correct. Just look at it, Sifiso. He now raised dirty tricks when it suits people that he feels must take over the leadership of the ANC. Comrade Mantashe is also the one, when Wesley Seal were assaulted in the office of the ANC, he's the one, Comrade Mantashe is the one that withdrew the appeal that was supposed to go to the appeals committee. So I'm saying Comrade Mantashe, hands were dirty in the Western Cape because he tried to find entry point to rise to the occasion into a position in the top 6. So Comrade Mantashe was partly to destroy the ANC in the Western Cape. That's a reality.
That's a serious allegation.
Yes, I'm
Mr.
making
Fransman.
that point. The night of the elections, the local government elections, last year, on the ANC, Comrade Mantashe was asked, the absence of Fransman in the election campaign, will it not bring the ANC percentage down? His answer were, no, we're actually going to increase. We went from 34% under my leadership down to 24%. I think that is the issue. He allowed individuals based on allegiance to his office to, in a sense, rip the province apart. Now, remember a few months ago, less than 3 months ago, the provincial office, Comrade Secretary for East Jacobs and others, they've dislodged the Metro leadership. Okay. You remember that?
Yeah.
So they've dislodged in one decision, he took them out. That is the type of leadership that Comrade Mantashe and others supported in the province. We must go into the African National Congress, in the ANC's Congress, and we must ensure that we elect leadership that will bring the organizations to its true position, that we don't need to have a debate, does white monopoly capital exist or not? Yeah. Did you ever thought, Sifiso, the liberation movement, the African National Congress, can have a big debate about is there such a thing called white monopoly capital or not?
Has the Dula Omar region broken ranks from the ANC?
No.
We had the family of Dula Omar say they do not endorse the name of Mr. Dula Omar to stand in support of President Jacob Zuma during the vote of no confidence debate. Should we take it that the ANC in the Western Cape is, dying a slow death, or have the factions just outrun the party?
No. I think let's. If the top 6 doesn't have coherence when it comes to the province, you're going to have that problem. If the top six, some of the top six come down over 12 months and speak bad about the president of the ANC and actually push quietly positions of no confidence at times. If NWC members go to branches in dark corners and say, please support a motion.
Who are those NWC members?
I think it's clear. Derek Hanekom and others. It's very clear. And then in the Western Cape Leadership, Comrade Faiz, the secretary of the province, 2 weeks before, they got very excited. 2 weeks before the motion of no confidence, both in the NEC meeting and in Parliament, where in fact, at least 30 or 35 people actually of the ANC voted for the opposition, and it is fine. The enemy within will destroy the African National Congress. The Dalla Omar region got its name from our late Dalla Omar, our leader. So the region has a name, and the region structures are strong and coherent in the context of behind the leadership of that region. The family has raised an issue, and I respect the family, and the family's wishes needs to be taken into account in the context of a leader called Comrade Dalla Omar, and that is for the Metro leadership and the family to work out. I don't think it is my place to step into that process.
3 newspapers led with the story that you participated in corrupt activity with the appointment of designers and advisors to advise your department when you were still in government. And there has been millions wasted and unaccounted for in this. How true are these allegations?
No, look, they didn't say I was part of corrupt activities. That's not true. They said the issue was oversight around portfolio. It is not true. We've went into, look, it's a DA. We understand the DA is the right. As the opposition party, I've got a view, they have the right to throw anything mud. Doesn't mean it's true. Just think about it. We were also in the period until 2009 when the ANC was in government. We were one of the best performing provinces. The issue is the DA 10 years thereafter are trying to say, no, it wasn't as good, and can you see this, can you see that? When Rasool left the premiership, what did they say? Corruption, corruption, corruption. Now with President Zuma and others, corruption, corruption, corruption. We must accept the DA has an agenda to cloud everyone, any cutting-edge leader of the ANC as corrupt. That I understand. The key thing is the ANC structures should not necessarily always embrace the DA message. Suddenly this word state capture became popular in the ANC. Go back to the DA manifesto of 2008 or 2007. They planted the word state capture. 10 years thereafter, we all speak about state capture as if it is. So my problem is somewhere there's a small strategic unit outmaneuvering currently our movement. Because we are bound, we think, in order for us to have leadership we must have position. So no, it has been refuted. Yesterday I was at Scopa. 10 years thereafter, I went to Scopa. Now just think about this. Annual reports every year, AG's report every year. Yeah, not one indication of
My
political
next question was about you appearing before Scopa. That was very interesting.
Yes, and not one question about me political interference, because there is a Public Finance Management Act. And the PFMA is very clear in terms of accounting authority and political authority. Where I was sitting, I've put together policy perspectives. So that is it. Just think also, why was it only me? Helen, just think about this. Helen has now recently spent, in the last few years, 2 billion overspent on the Greenpoint Stadium. She wasn't called in front of Scopa. There was 600...
Why wasn't she called before Scopa?
Do you think the DA is going to call the Premier to come and account for
But surely in Scopa it is not just
That's
the
the
DA.
point. No. The ANC has asked her to come. But the DA has got a majority there. 600 million has been spent in the provincial government and in the city of Cape Town on a company that was in stress, a company called Fulcon. In fact, it was liquidated. But 600 million rand has been spent. But the job was not done.
Why did the ANC lose the Western Cape?
Look, it's over time. The ANC in 94 only got 33%. The ANC in 99 got 42%. And in 2004, we got 46%. So we're incrementally rising, right? But it was because of the coalition that we've built, if you remember then, with the New National Party. So there was a coalition between the ANC and the New National Party. The biggest challenge is essentially, for example, at times on the Cape Flats, and I think it's because the ANC must, the leadership of the ANC collectively at all levels must show that we are caring about the issues of the coloured community. So I've got issue when Comrade Mantashe and others argue that the issue about the coloured community is not a big issue. It's a big issue. The issue about land for the Khoisan, why is there no big debate in the ANC at the last policy conference about the pre-1913 land that was stolen from the Khoisan in Cape Town? That's not an issue currently. Why had Solidarity, if you remember Solidarity, why did they have to go to defend pub crew members in Cape Town, correctional services members, predominantly coloured community members, right? Why did they have to go and defend them when the ANC portfolio has actually said they were not good for appointments and they won that case through Solidarity? Aren't the ANC supposed to defend non-racialism and its very core? And I think those are the deeper issues.
But
those are the
what is your voice from the Western Cape? Often you've complained that much attention, even by the media, is paid to the KZN, Mpumalanga and other provinces, and not much attention is paid to the Western Cape. What is your voice leading up to the December conference?
So I think it's very clear. What we require is the following. We require to have a four-pronged strategy for the Western Cape. Central to that is to reconnect with communities, to show from a national perspective the importance of not the Western Cape only, but from the Khoisan community at large in all provinces. Then we need to put 5 or 7 key strategic issues on the table. One of that, the implementation of what we've agreed on the land question when it comes to Khoisan and the Bushman community. We mustn't talk about it, we mustn't put lip service it, we mustn't make it as an irritation. Those are the issues. If we want ever to take stronger protect in the Western Cape, Northern Cape and Eastern Cape, because you saw those numbers are coming down even in other provinces. This is not a Western Cape issue, Sifiso. It's a national issue. It's the national question issue. So my advice is that branches and structures must discuss that issue, and we must take it forward. And then just lastly, the fishing community. I don't know if you've picked up over the news the last while, the quotas and the way the allocation of quotas happened to such an extent that the smaller communities were pushed out. If that trend continues, we will continue losing elections, and we must change that.
So what is your voice? Who are you sending as your top 6 to the December conference?
Look, it's very clear that the Western Cape, on the structures in regions, and you've got regional secretaries and chairpersons of that province on the ground, and the branches, comfortably I can say that at least 70% of all our structures will support Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma for president, and will support that line-up that actually reflect a radical economic transformation, and that will reflect a stronger voice against white monopoly capital, and that will look at the issue of land in the context of much more fair redistribution in our country. So that is our position. Now,
I would have thought many branches in the Western Cape would be supporting Mr. Ramaphosa.
Where did you hear that from the media? That's my point. Remember what I said earlier, Sifiso? The analyst, what analysts say, and this is not a Western Cape issue, national issue. If you look at what the fourth estate is saying now, they are arguing that Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa will walk in as the president. If you look at what the branches are saying, it is different. I think the issue here is currently, fact is we need a female president, but we need somebody with experience. And Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, AU, South Africa, I think I was shocked when I saw our senior comrades argued that she's the president's ex-wife, as if she doesn't have a struggle credentials on her own. Why did we get to that level? But the point is, if you open the door of the jungle, like Comrade Mantashe did last year, you can't close that door. Then it is madness. Who do you think is behind the KZN application to the court 2 years or a year after their conference? So it was a multi-pronged strategy. One, destabilize them in the media. Two, make sure that Parliament put motion of no confidence out. Three, Parliament. And four, the issue of the NEC. So to disrupt at different level. What the communists couldn't get right in branches, they're trying to get right through the court in the context of conference. I think that is wrong. So I'm very clear. The Western Cape will be going there with or without me, let me put it blunt, because I think there is a strong push not to allow the voice of Fransman and to lead the structures. But as we know, commanders and comrades that's leading is not always, it's not always where you are physically. It is the way your hegemony can spread. And the hegemony of the ANC structures on the ground is very clear. We want better and stronger focus on transformation in the Western Cape.
If it happens that Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma does not win, will you still support Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa as your leader?
Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, whoever conference speaks to, just think about it. Prior to Polokwane, I actually supported President Thabo. Conference has spoken, then that became the president, and I became close to the President Zuma. The issue is here, if conference speak and president and it speak in support of Cyril Ramaphosa, that will be the collective position of the ANC. And we must respect them that. What I will say is, what is important, whatever we do, it's not the positions that matter anymore. The ANC, we are currently, I don't know if you realize that we're currently on a slippery slope. And the debate is going less so. In the branches, we don't have any more discussions around the real issues of society. The one where I invited you once, the Cape Forum, Center for Pan-African Empowerment, having a discussion on land. Now, those are the discussions that needs to take place in the branches. The next 5 years, my focus will be to bring justice to the impact that the genocide on the Khoi and San has done. So that will be my focus within the African National Congress or in civil society. But what we mustn't allow that the ANC must be captured by white monopoly capital sitting in the bed. And that is the thing that we must guard against.
Yeah. We're sadly out of time, Mr. Fransman, but I hope to speak to you in December.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Sifiso, and
thanks for taking the flight up here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Mr. Marius Fransman, leader of the ANC in the Western Cape. December is ahead of us, and we do hope that the ANC will unite itself once again. This is Sifiso Mahlangu, Channel 405. We're called ANN7. Every Sunday, 7 p.m., Straight Talk with Sifiso Mahlangu. Pray for South Africa. It's a good night from us.